A day in the life of James Carter. James Carter was a 32-year-old man living in the suburbs of a bustling city. He was a loving husband to his wife, Emily, and a proud father of two young kids, Sarah and Ethan. Every day in James's life was filled with moments of joy, challenges, and the constant balancing act of being a husband, father, and professional. This is the story of one of his days, a seemingly ordinary day that turned out to be anything but that. Morning. The rush begins. James woke up to the sound of his alarm clock buzzing at 6 a.m. He stretched his arms and yawned, still feeling a bit sleepy. As he sat up in bed, he looked over at Emily, who was still sleeping peacefully. He smiled to himself and quietly slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. James tiptoed to the bathroom, washed his face, and brushed his teeth. He looked at himself in the mirror. His dark brown hair was a mess, sticking out in all directions, and his beard needed trimming. "I'll deal with that later," he thought, chuckling softly. By 6:15 a.m., James was in the kitchen brewing coffee. The rich aroma filled the air, and he felt more awake already. He prepared breakfast, a simple mix of scrambled eggs, toast, and orange juice. Just as he was about to sit down to enjoy his meal, he heard the sound of tiny footsteps. Ethan, his 5-year-old son, appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, and holding his favorite stuffed bear. "Good morning, buddy," James said cheerfully. "Good morning, Daddy," Ethan replied with a sleepy smile. James scooped him up and sat him down at the kitchen table. "Want some toast?" Ethan nodded eagerly. James quickly buttered a slice and handed it to him. Moments later, Sarah, who was 8 years old, came bounding down the stairs with far more energy than Ethan. "Daddy, I have a math test today," she announced. "Good morning to you too, Sarah," James teased. "Are you ready for it?" "I think so. But maybe you can quiz me while I eat breakfast?" "Of course," James said, smiling. By the time Emily woke up at 7 a.m., the kitchen was alive with chatter. The kids were laughing, and James was helping Sarah review her multiplication tables. Emily joined them at the table, giving James a quick kiss on the cheek. "You're amazing," she whispered. Getting out the door, after breakfast, the real chaos began. James and Emily worked as a team to get the kids ready for school. Sarah couldn't find her shoes, and Ethan was refusing to wear the jacket Emily had picked out for him. "Why can't I wear my red jacket?" Ethan asked, pouting. "Because it's dirty, sweetheart," Emily explained patiently. James stepped in, kneeling down to Ethan's level. "How about your blue jacket? You look like a superhero in it." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Okay," he said, running to grab it. By 8 a.m., they were all in the car, James drove the kids to school, dropping them off with a quick hug and a reminder to be kind and do your best. As he watched them disappear into the school building, he felt a wave of pride. Work life. James worked as a project manager for a small software company. His office was about 20 minutes from the kids' school. He arrived at 8:30 a.m., greeted his colleagues, and settled into his desk. The morning was filled with meetings and emails. James liked his job, but it could be stressful. Today, there was a big deadline, and one of his team members had run into a problem. James spent an hour troubleshooting with her, patiently guiding her through the issue. By lunchtime, James was ready for a break. He grabbed his lunch from the office fridge, a turkey sandwich and a small salad Emily had packed for him. As he ate, he called Emily to check in. "How's your day going?" he asked her. "Busy," she replied. "I just finished folding laundry, and now I'm about to start working on the kids' birthday party plans. Let me know if you need help with anything," James said. "You're the best," Emily replied. Afternoon adventures. The afternoon at work was just as hectic as the morning. James juggled phone calls, wrote reports, and even had to calm down a client who was unhappy about a delay. By 4:30 p.m., he was exhausted but relieved that everything had been handled. He left the office and drove to pick up the kids from their after-school program. As soon as they got in the car, they bombarded him with stories about their day. Sarah had aced her math test, and Ethan proudly showed James a picture he had drawn of their family. "Wow, that's amazing, Ethan," James said. "You even drew Mommy's favorite dress." Ethan beamed with pride. Evening, family time. When they got home, Emily was already preparing dinner, spaghetti and meatballs. The house smelled delicious. James helped set the table while the kids did their homework in the living room. After dinner, the family decided to have a game night. They played a board game called Adventure Quest, which Sarah had gotten for her birthday. James pretended to be a villain, complete with a silly voice, while the kids and Emily teamed up to defeat him. Laughter echoed through the house as Ethan tried to negotiate a truce with the evil wizard. By the time the game ended, it was 8:30 p.m. Emily took the kids upstairs for their baths, while James tidied up the living room. Once the kids were in their pajamas, they all gathered in Ethan's room for story time. James read from a book about pirates, using different voices for each character. The kids listened intently, their eyes wide with excitement. Nighttime reflections. By 9:30 p.m., the kids were asleep, and the house was quiet again. James and Emily sat on the couch, enjoying a cup of tea together. "Today was a good day," Emily said, leaning her head on James's shoulder. "It really was," James agreed. I love these little moments with the kids. They make everything worth it. As they sat there, James thought about how lucky he was. Life wasn't always easy, but it was full of love, laughter, and purpose, and that was more than enough for him. With that thought, James kissed Emily good night and headed to bed, ready to do it all again tomorrow. The unexpected morning, the next day began like any other. James's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., and he went through his usual routine of stretching, washing his face, and brewing coffee. However, as he reached for the bread to make toast, the toaster suddenly sparked and made a loud, popping sound. "Uh-oh," James muttered, inspecting the now smoking toaster. "Looks like we're not having toast today." Emily walked into the kitchen just as James unplugged the appliance. "What happened?" she asked. "The toaster's gone rogue," James joked. "I think it's time we finally get a new one." Emily laughed. "Good thing we have cereal. I'll grab the milk." The kids came downstairs a few minutes later. Sarah looked concerned when she saw the toaster on the counter. "What happened to the toaster?" she asked. "It's retired now," James said with a grin. "But don't worry, breakfast is still on." Ethan giggled. "Does that mean the toaster's going to sleep forever?" "Pretty much," James replied, ruffling Ethan's hair. Despite the minor setback, breakfast went smoothly. By 7:30 a.m., the kids were ready for school. Just as they were heading out the door, James noticed dark clouds gathering in the sky. "Looks like rain," he said, grabbing an umbrella. "Don't forget your jackets." A rainy day adventure. The drive to school was uneventful until the rain began to pour heavily. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up, and visibility was poor. "Whoa, it's like a waterfall out here," Sarah said from the back seat. "Good thing I'm an expert driver," James said, gripping the steering wheel with mock seriousness. The kids giggled, feeling reassured by his playful tone. After dropping them off safely, James headed to work. The rain continued to pound down, and traffic was unusually heavy. By the time he arrived at the office, he was 15 minutes late. "Not the best start to the day," he muttered under his breath. James hurried inside, shaking off his umbrella and greeting his coworkers. The morning was packed with meetings, and James found himself feeling more drained than usual. However, he reminded himself of his motto, "one step at a time." A surprise at work. Around lunchtime, James's day took an unexpected turn. His boss, Mr. Allen, called him into his office. James's first thought was, "Uh-oh, what did I do wrong?" But to his surprise, Mr. Allen greeted him with a smile. "James, I just wanted to thank you for your hard work on the client project last week," Mr. Allen said. The client was so impressed that they've decided to expand the partnership. James felt a wave of relief and pride. Thank you, Mr. Allen. That's great news. And, Mr. Allen continued, because of your efforts, I'm recommending you for a promotion. There's still some paperwork to finalize, but I wanted you to know. James was stunned. As he left the office, James couldn't stop smiling. He immediately texted Emily to share the news. Her reply came quickly, "That's amazing. We need to celebrate tonight." An evening of celebration, James picked up the kids after work, still buzzing with excitement. Guess what? He said as soon as they were in the car. Daddy might be getting a promotion. Does that mean we get ice cream? Ethan asked, his face lighting up. James laughed. It means we're celebrating. Ice cream sounds like a great idea. After dinner, the family went out for dessert at their favorite ice cream shop. Sarah chose chocolate with sprinkles, Ethan picked strawberry, and James and Emily shared a sundae. The kids cheered when James told them about his hard work paying off. Back home, they decided to watch a family movie before bed. The kids chose an animated adventure about talking animals, and James found himself laughing just as much as they were. An unexpected twist: just as James was tucking the kids into bed, Ethan looked up at him with wide eyes. "Daddy, do you think pirates like ice cream?" James chuckled. "I'm sure they do. Why do you ask?" "Because I want to be a pirate when I grow up, but only a good pirate." "Can we read the pirate book again tomorrow?" "Of course, buddy," James said, kissing him on the forehead. As James and Emily settled into bed, Emily turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "You know, life feels really full right now, in the best way." James nodded. "It really does. And it's moments like these that make me grateful for everything." Emily smiled. "Me too. Now, let's get some sleep. Tomorrow's another adventure." And with that, James closed his eyes, ready to face whatever the next day would bring. He knew that life wasn't always easy, but with his family by his side, he could handle anything. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to comment, to give me suggestion, what kind of story you want.